yeah, this is gonna be on the Penguin. I'm sure some of you just probably haven't seen it yet. Don't know if there's gonna be spoilers, so don't at me. Uh, it's not like a crazy situation of spoilers in this one. If you've seen the trailer, you've pretty much seen what you need to see. Not of the episode, because the episode's really good. But it's just some of the nuances within the episode that I think I really loved. And the moments with Colin Farrell as a penguin where he's not even talking. Sometimes he's just there and you can see his mind is just racing. But again, he might go into spoilers if that's something that you don't want to get into. Maybe you might want to, I don't know, mute, or I wouldn't tell anybody to leave, but it's about a 7-minute video. I don't know. He may go through the whole story of episode 1. I know he's done that before, but he says it right there. The penguin really surprised me. So I figure, why not? Let's check it out. If you haven't watched my review, check that out, because I did do a review on episode 1. I'm going to be doing weekly reviews on the Penguin and Agatha all along. I'll still do weekly reviews on that, even though it's not starting out so great. But this one is pretty good. So we'll get into it.
Well, color me shocked. I mean, who could have predicted that a spin-off TV show about a periphery character from a moderately successful Batman movie would turn out to be an extremely well-written, brilliantly acted, competently directed, and generally excellent crime drama with a complex and sympathetic protagonist, and possibly one of the best comic book adaptations we've had in years.
See you, Chris.
Not me, that's for sure. The hype around the Penguin was basically non-existent as far as I was concerned, because I was about as enthusiastic for this show as I was for telling my AA sponsor that I'd fallen off the wagon for the 3rd time today. And it was only through the combined recommendations of a few people whose opinions I actually respect that I finally sat down to watch the first episodes. And damn, I've got to admit, they pulled a blinder with this one. Unapologetically violent, gritty, complex, hard-hitting, and mature, The Penguin strikes exactly the tone I'd expect from a show like this. Unlike the MCU,
no, literally. Oh, I knew he was gonna make the comparison. I already knew, but like literally in the review that I did, I pretty much talked about how I'm gonna force myself through Agatha. A W in the chat. Literally, this is like the closest we'll probably get to an R-rated Batman movie or an R-rated Batman anything. This is R-rated as far as the Penguin. It's an R-rated show, or I guess TVMA. Is what they say for TV, but it's legit. A good amount of language. There's like one piece of nudity in there at one point. It was just really random, but even the violence it's there. It's definitely there. So it's for sure TVMA Batman here. So I'll say R-rated Batman because we'll never get an R-rated Batman movie, I'm sure. But yeah, it's gonna the makeup department for Colin Farrell as the Penguin definitely should win something. I don't know. Did it get nominated for an Oscar at all or nothing? If they got snubbed for that, that's insane. Because I still watch this. I'm like, that's not Colin Farrell. They can't be. Like it's somebody brand new.
Whose laughable attempts at producing more grounded and realistic TV content ended up more like Tulsa King mixed with the Teletubbies, The Penguin actually feels like a show written by and for adults, starring actors who can actually act, and a script that neatly establishes its world and characters within a single episode. The show picks up right after the events of The Batman, with Gotham recovering from the flood that destroyed half the city, and the criminal underworld reeling from the death of Carmine Falcone.
If you didn't notice, if you remember, Zakato, what's up? If you remember from The Batman, John Turturro played Carmine Falcone, and in the show,
the city and the criminal underworld,
they've got Mark Strong playing him in the show. I'm watching the show and I see this picture. And I'm like, that's not him. Like who? That's not John Turturro. Who is that? Oh, that's Mark Strong. They like recast him. So I think it's kind of crazy, but he wasn't available apparently. So they're going to show him in flashbacks. But if you didn't know about the casting there you go. But I do like how Gotham in this show is a character in itself, more so than it was in the Batman, which I thought was pretty awesome.
World reeling from the death of Carmine Falcone. With his son Alberto struggling to fill his dad's shoes and his empire faltering, it seems like a power vacuum is developing in Gotham. And sooner or later, someone's gonna have to fill.
That's Salvatore Moroni, played by Clancy Brown. I'm pretty sure if you're just getting in here, I see some of you guys are just getting in here. Hey, hello, hi. If you haven't seen The Penguin, we're watching the Critical Drinker of The Penguin. It's going to go into spoilers. I know it. We're only a minute 30 in. The way he's telling the story so far, I already know he's going to go into spoiler territory. So if you don't want to be spoiled, I'm sorry. You could probably head out, come back in like 7 minutes. But if you're fine, it's cool. Watch it no matter what. Even if he does spoil some stuff here, watch it no matter what, because it's an amazing episode.
Enter Oswald Cobb, his former right-hand man who now has aspirations to move up in the world, and when he gets into a heated confrontation with Alberto one night, well, let's just say it doesn't end well. It's not long before he runs into a local gang member trying to steal his car, but rather than just kill him, Oswald sees something of himself in the kid and decides to put him to work. Heartwarming stuff indeed, but things soon go south when Oswald gets word that the Falcone family are moving their drug operations out of Gotham, basically cutting his business off at the knees. Even worse, Alberto's batshit crazy sister Sophia has been released from Arkham Asylum and clearly suspects that Oswald knows something about her brother's disappearance. But what to do? Well, rather than skip town, Oswald decides to stand and fight, working hard to play his enemies off against each other and bring down the Falcone Empire from the inside so that he can eventually take over himself. And as we soon find out, he's willing to go to some pretty extreme lengths to get what he wants.
Straight up.
As a character, the Penguin always felt like a weird out-of-place addition in the Batman movie, awkwardly inserted into a narrative that didn't really need him and abandoned when the script decided it was done with him. The decision to smother Colin Farrell in enough latex to supply a dozen of P. Diddy's house parties just to make him look like a fat, ugly, middle-aged man instead of hiring an actual fat, ugly, middle-aged actor was another bizarre creative choice that felt like it was done just to get another big name on board. So like I said before, I wasn't exactly pumped to watch an entire TV show based around this guy.
I was surprised that Critical Drinker wasn't like into it. Like after seeing the Batman and seeing what he did in that show, in that movie, he was still good. It was a smaller role, but it was still very good. And the fact that it's feeding into this, I'm like, hey, like I thought he killed it as the Penguin in the Batman. I thought it was really good and still very surprising. So like seeing it now in this way, it feels like a Game of Thrones-esque type show in the Batman universe, the way that Penguin is kind of trying to put factions against each other to help him rise to the top. It's already really cool to see, and we're only one episode in.
After all, we've had plenty of other Batman spin-off shows over the years that have ranged from pointless to obscure.
Did anybody watch that? Anybody watch that show? Isn't that like Joker's daughter in the right? And then this is like, is this Damian Wayne or just another Robin in the middle? I can't remember. Did anybody watch Gotham Knights on CW? Is it on Max? I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know if I can do it. It looks pretty bad. Pennyworth looked pretty good, but I hadn't actually watched that.
It's too obscure.
Like, it's kind of cool to get some background on Alfred, but I never actually watched this either.
To downright abuse.
Didn't even mess with this one. I saw the trailers. I said, nope, I'm done. I can't do it.
It will be when it fits a woman.
And that's what this felt like. Just another spin-off show with no clear reason for existing that nobody particularly wanted or asked for. But the thing that the Penguin does so well and so efficiently is to get you invested in its protagonist literally by the end of its first scene. A short conversation with the new head of the Falcone Empire really tells you everything you need to know about what drives Oswald. He's a man born into a hard and cruel world who was forced to become hard and cruel himself to survive, but there's also something else in him that sets him apart from his peers. He aspires to become something better, even if he's forced to become something worse in order to get there. He's a man handicapped by crippling disability, who clearly didn't start with any advantages in life, but through ruthless cunning, careful planning, and sheer balls-out bravery, he's clawed out a place for himself in the world. And beneath it all, he's still very much a human being, broken and damaged by a tough life, and the little glimpses of vulnerability and humanity that we see are just enough to make us empathize with him. As he mentions at one point, he's learned how to make himself small so that his bosses can feel big around him, careful never to rise too far or say too much in case he paints a target on his back. And
oh man, you know what that sounds like? Oh god, that was probably like the worst scene to stop this on. But anybody know this book called The 48 Laws of Power? I've been reading it. I think it's, oh god, where is it? Oh yeah, it's right here. Apparently, this is like a banned book in prisons and stuff. But this book right here, one like what he just talked about of like having himself feel small around his, his superiors so they feel bigger. That's one of the laws literally in this book, which is kind of crazy. But it's a really good book if you're interested in just one, like, leadership type roles and trying to like navigate yourself in the business world. It's actually a really good book.
Big props to Colin Farrell, who turns in what might be one of the best performances of his career. It would have been easy for an actor to look kind of laughable under all those prosthetics, but the strength of Farrell's performance shines through so that you kind of forget he's even wearing makeup
Straight
after
up.
a while. And that's not to put down the rest of the cast either, who all deliver brilliant performances. Clancy Brown is always dependable as a menacing villain, but the real standout is Kristen Milioti as Sophia, who's highly intelligent, brutal, and always balanced right on the edge of madness. You really feel like she could do anything at any moment. She's a perfect foil for someone like Oswald, and it's going to be great fun watching them spar with each other for control of the city. In terms of plot and pacing, if you're a fan of the Godfather movies or shows like The Sopranos, then you'll be pretty familiar with the story beats at work here. It's your typical organized crime drama for the most part.
Yeah.
Lots of plotting and scheming, alliances and double crosses, family loyalties and bitter feuds, but it's all handled pretty competently, and for the most part, I didn't feel like events or decisions were forced for the sake of moving the plot along.
Yeah, a lot of it is like very much known, or at least like you have an idea of what's going on because you've probably seen it before. Nothing really new, but it's happening in the Batman universe. It's happening in Gotham City. It's happening with the Penguin and different families that we know about, the Falcons, the Maronis, things like that. So the fact that it's things that we've seen before for the most part, it feels new because of the setting. And it's very much a mature show. I think that's what helps it too.
Yeah, you could probably argue that Oswald choosing to spare Victor's life was a bit contrived when it would leave him dangerously exposed, and he almost certainly has other men that he can trust at his disposal.
Yeah.
But mostly I'd put that down to his more sentimental side getting the better of him. And in some ways it kind of makes sense for him to get someone outside the family who's completely insulated from all this stuff. In terms of the cinematography, one of the things I really appreciated about the Batman movie was the way it reverted back to the gritty, dilapidated Gotham City that fans of the comics knew so well. Compared to the bland, sterile version that we got in the Dark Knight trilogy and whatever the fuck Zack Snyder was trying to do, the Batman felt like just the right balance between grounded realism and the industrial gothic look of the comics, and that aesthetic gets carried over perfectly well here. It's obviously still based on New York, but run down, neglected, stricken by crime and corruption and decay. So basically just actual New York then. We're only one episode in so far, so it's a bit too early to say for sure, but for the most part, I think I'm pretty impressed with what they've managed to do with the Penguin. If I had to compare it to something else, I'd say it feels like the Netflix Daredevil series, something that used its parent movies as a jumping off point to branch off into its own self-contained narrative that's way more violent and mature than anything the movies could ever hope to be. And if that was their aspiration for this show, then well, hats off to you, gentlemen. Mission accomplished. Let's just hope you don't drop the ball on this one because you have my interest so far. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
All right. Well, there we go. I think again, like it's I really enjoyed it despite seeing very little promotion for it. You know what's funny? So I'm at a place right now where I normally don't know how often something's marketed because I don't have cable. I just do streaming. And then now I don't have commercials or ads on YouTube because I have YouTube Premium. So I don't really watch a lot of commercials now. So I'm kind of lost as far as like how often some things are marketed or commercialized than other things. So I didn't know like how much of a push the Penguin was getting, first off, related to other things. I feel like Agatha All Along was getting a pretty good push, at least for what it is, from Disney. But the Penguin, I wasn't sure. So interesting. I do agree with Drinker though on the character of Victor. He's the kid that was with the gang trying to steal Penguin's wheels and hubcaps, all that kind of stuff. Not hubcaps, but rims of his car. He's more like, I guess they were trying to position him to be like us almost, like the audience experiencing Penguin, but we don't really need it. Plus, to Drinker's point, he could have used like Penguin could have used any other like henchman that he's close to, and you see that there's dudes that he talks to at one of his factories. You see he's built relationships with other people. So I'm trying to understand exactly why he goes this route. But I mean, it brings somebody in that also has this desire to be more than they are. And so I guess from that aspect, it's trying to, have you see another version of someone who's trying to be like Penguin, kind of in a different light. And Penguin's more of like a mentor to this kid as well. So there's that. But it's a great show, and Drinker likes it so far. Hopefully, like you said, they don't drop the ball. I hope they don't. I don't think they will. I think writing wise, it's going to be on point. Will it live up to the expectations of what people want from this show? Who knows? I don't even know what people are really expecting, but I'm enjoying it. I think it's pretty awesome so far. So yeah, there we have it.